The hospital lights were too bright, the air too cold, and every sound felt like it echoed inside Maya's chest. Sweat rolled down her forehead as contractions hit harder and faster. Nurses rushed in and out, their faces blurring as her vision trembled. Her husband, Ryan, stood by the door, scrolling through his phone, detached and cold. But what made her stomach twist wasn't the pain. It was the icy stare from her mother-in-law, Mrs. Sterling, who whispered something to the nurse that made her blood run cold. "Breathe, Maya," the doctor said, voice calm. "You're almost there." But Maya could feel something wasn't right. The oxygen mask she'd been wearing moments ago had been quietly placed aside. Her chest grew heavy. She looked at Ryan, her heart begging for help, but he avoided her eyes. Instead, another woman stepped closer. Lena, the woman Maya once thought was just Ryan's assistant. Lena smiled faintly, her tone dripping with false concern. "Don't worry, sweetie. Everything will be over soon." Panic surged through Maya's body. Her hands clutched the hospital sheets as her breathing turned shallow. Her mind screamed for help, but her voice barely escaped her lips. Why are you doing this?" Mrs. Sterling leaned closer, her voice a cruel whisper. "You should have known your place, girl. My son deserves better." The world started spinning. The beeping monitor beside her flickered. Maya could hear the faint buzz of the machines, then silence. She thought of her father, Daniel Kingston, a man powerful enough to move cities but unaware his daughter was fighting for her life. Her vision blurred into white as a single tear rolled down her cheek. But fate wasn't finished. Because sometimes, even in the darkest moment, justice begins with a single breath. The room had fallen silent. The monitors flatlined for a moment before the nurse rushed back in, panic flashing in her eyes. "What happened here?" she shouted, slamming the oxygen back in place. Maya gasped for air, her chest rising sharply as the world returned in fragments. Voices, footsteps, chaos. Mrs. Sterling stepped back, feigning shock. "It must have slipped off. These machines are so old." Her voice shook, but her eyes stayed sharp, scanning everyone's reactions. Ryan rushed forward now, pretending concern, but his trembling hands told another story. "Fix it. Please. Do something," he cried. But it was all a show. The doctor barked orders while a nurse adjusted the mask, and slowly, Maya's breathing steadied. No one noticed the small security camera blinking red above the corner of the room. No one except a janitor who had been standing outside, watching everything through the reflection in the glass. His name was Luis, a quiet man who had worked at the hospital for years. He'd seen cruelty before, but this was different. Something in his gut told him this wasn't an accident. Hours passed. Maya lay unconscious, her body weak but alive. The nurse who had been attending her earlier returned, shaking her head. "Someone tampered with the oxygen supply," she whispered to herself, unaware that Luis was still standing in the doorway, listening carefully. Luis looked at Maya, then at the reflection of Mrs. Sterling and Lena whispering in the hallway. He knew he couldn't stay quiet. He picked up his phone, took a photo of the oxygen valve, and murmured, "This ain't right." Outside, thunder rolled over the city. In a penthouse miles away, Daniel Kingston, Maya's father, sat by his desk, staring at a photo of his daughter smiling on her wedding day. He didn't know it yet, but that phone call, the one Luis was about to make, would change everything. Because truth, no matter how buried, always finds a way to breathe. The night was quiet in the Kingston mansion, too quiet for a man who never slept peacefully. Daniel Kingston sat alone in his study, city lights flickering through the glass wall behind him. His phone buzzed, a call from an unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something inside urged him to answer. "Mr. Kingston," a nervous voice said. "My name's Luis. I work at Mercy General. Your daughter, she's in danger." Daniel froze. "Who are you, and what do you mean, danger?" His tone was sharp, commanding. Luis hesitated, then whispered, "I saw someone mess with her oxygen. It wasn't an accident, sir. I've got proof." The world seemed to stop. The pen in Daniel's hand slipped, rolling across the desk. For a man who had built empires, torn down competitors, and ruled boardrooms with iron calm, it was the first time his voice trembled. "Send me everything you have." Within seconds, Luis texted photos, the oxygen valve turned off, the reflection of Mrs. Sterling and Lena standing nearby, Ryan looking away. The evidence was undeniable. Daniel stood abruptly, fury burning in his chest. "My little girl," he whispered. "They tried to hurt my little girl." He called his security chief immediately. "I want every piece of footage from Mercy General tonight." Discreetly. By dawn, Daniel's private jet was on standby. He was headed back to the city he hadn't visited in months. His people were already waiting at the hospital, quietly pulling camera logs and staff records. Meanwhile, Maya stirred awake. Her throat burned, and her mind was foggy. But her instincts screamed that something terrible had happened. She saw Ryan asleep in the chair beside her and flinched. The memory of the missing oxygen hit her like a wave. She turned her face away and whispered weakly, "Daddy, please find me." And across the sky, as the first light of morning broke through the clouds, her father was already on his way, carrying not just power, but a storm of vengeance and love. The sound of helicopter blades sliced through the dawn sky as Daniel Kingston's aircraft landed on the hospital's rooftop. Security guards in black suits rushed to open the doors. The billionaire stepped out, calm, composed, but his eyes burned like fire under the morning light. Inside, hospital staff whispered his name like a rumor. "That's Daniel Kingston, Maya's father." Every nurse straightened. Every doctor tried to look busy. No one wanted to be the one who crossed him. Daniel didn't waste time. He strode down the corridor with his assistant, Clara, who handed him a tablet showing security footage Luis had recovered. "Here," she said, "time-stamped and verified. You can see Mrs. Sterling near the oxygen tank. Then Lena follows." He watched in silence. The moment the valve was turned, Maya's body tensed on screen. Ryan was there too, standing back, watching. His jaw tightened. "Find them," Daniel said coldly. "Every single one of them." Moments later, the elevator doors opened. Daniel walked straight into Maya's hospital room. She was awake now, pale and weak, her eyes glassy but alive. When she saw him, tears welled instantly. "Dad!" He dropped everything and rushed to her side, taking her hand gently. "You're safe now, baby. I'm here." Her lip trembled. They tried to. "I know," Daniel said, voice low but steady. "You don't have to say it. I saw everything." Outside, Ryan entered the hallway, pretending shock. "Mr. Kingston, I was just about to call you." Daniel turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "Save it, son. We'll talk soon." Ryan's throat went dry. Something in Daniel's calm tone was more terrifying than anger. Behind him, Mrs. Sterling and Lena arrived, unaware that their perfect lie was about to crumble. Because when a billionaire moves for his daughter, it's not revenge he brings, it's reckoning. The hallway outside Maya's room was silent except for the steady hum of fluorescent lights. Ryan, Mrs. Sterling, and Lena stood together, whispering nervously as Daniel stepped out of the room. His towering figure filled the corridor, every step deliberate and cold. "Mr. Kingston," Ryan began, forcing a shaky smile. "I don't know what you've heard, but—" "Save your breath," Daniel interrupted, his voice calm yet razor-sharp. "I've seen the footage." Mrs. Sterling's face drained of color. "Footage? What footage?" Daniel turned his tablet toward them. The security recording played silently. Mrs. Sterling leaning over the oxygen valve, Lena standing close, Ryan watching. The truth unfolded in slow motion, undeniable. Lena stumbled backward, words catching in her throat. "That's not what it looks like." "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like," Daniel cut in. "You three conspired to harm my daughter and my grandchild in a hospital meant to save lives." Ryan's mask shattered. "You don't understand. She was always difficult, always trying to control me." Daniel's glare froze him mid-sentence. You don't talk about control when you betray vows and humanity in the same breath. Nurses in the corridor paused, pretending not to listen, but their eyes said it all: fear, disgust, awe. Mrs. Sterling finally snapped. You can't prove intent. My son's wife was hysterical, maybe she? Daniel stepped closer, his tone dropping to a dangerous whisper. I don't need to prove anything here. The police and my lawyers will handle that. But I will make sure you never walk into another hospital, boardroom, or social circle without this following you. Lena's eyes filled with tears. Please, Mr. Kingston, I didn't mean to hurt her. Ryan said. Daniel raised a hand. Enough. The time for lies is over. As he turned to leave, his assistant Clara handed him her phone. Sir, the media caught wind. It's spreading fast. By morning, the hospital was surrounded by flashing cameras and murmuring reporters. Headlines blared across screens. Billionaire's daughter nearly killed during labor. Family betrayal exposed. Daniel Kingston's name was everywhere. But this time, it wasn't about his empire or wealth. It was about the woman lying in that hospital bed. Maya, the quiet, kind-hearted woman who never fought for fame, was now the face of betrayal and survival. Inside her room, Maya stirred weakly, still recovering. Her voice was fragile, barely a whisper. Dad, what's happening? Daniel took her hand gently. The truth's finally out, sweetheart. They can't hurt you anymore. Tears glistened in her eyes. Ryan, Mom, Lena. They really tried to. He nodded, jaw tight. They made choices they'll regret forever. You just focus on healing. Let me handle the rest. Outside, chaos reigned. News vans lined the street. Talk shows debated motives. Social media was ablaze. Hashtags like #JusticeForMaya and #BetrayedInLabor trended across platforms. At the same time, Ryan's company shares plummeted. Investors fled, sponsors withdrew, and his reputation was shredded within hours. Clips of him smiling at charity galas now looked hollow under the weight of what he'd done. Mrs. Sterling faced angry protesters outside her mansion, waving signs that read, "Protect mothers, not monsters." She hid behind closed curtains, trembling as the world turned against her. And Lena? She tried to disappear, deleting her socials, avoiding calls. But the internet never forgets. Screenshots, messages, whispers of her affair spread like wildfire. Meanwhile, Daniel moved quietly behind the scenes, pulling strings only a man of his power could. Lawyers were already in motion. The hospital administration held an emergency press conference, vowing full cooperation with authorities. Still, Daniel's focus never left Maya. Every hour, he sat by her bed, holding her hand, whispering soft encouragement. Days passed, but the shockwaves kept spreading. The hospital had turned into a fortress. Security guards patrolled every corner. Journalists camped outside, and the staff whispered about the billionaire's daughter in room 304. Maya's condition was slowly improving, but her heart carried scars far deeper than her body. She sat by the window one morning, staring at the sunrise. How could the people I loved the most want to destroy me, Dad? She asked softly. Daniel sighed, pulling a chair beside her. Sometimes, he said, people get blinded by greed and pride. But remember this, your survival is stronger than their hate. Maya tried to smile, but her voice trembled. I wanted a family, not a headline. Her father reached out and held her hand. And you still will, Maya, just not with those who never deserved you. Meanwhile, outside that peaceful room, the fallout was brutal. Ryan was publicly humiliated, fired from his firm, sued by investors, and abandoned by the very people who once praised his charm. Lena tried to go on a talk show to share her side, but her story fell apart when leaked texts revealed her role in the plot. Mrs. Sterling lost everything, her reputation, her social circle, even her charity sponsorships. Daniel's influence ensured every door they once walked through was now closed. But he didn't act out of revenge, it was justice. Quiet, deliberate, and permanent. Still, the noise outside couldn't silence the storm inside Maya's chest. At night, she'd wake up, gasping, flashes of the delivery room haunting her, the hiss of the oxygen machine, the betrayal in Ryan's eyes. Her nurse, an older woman named Grace, noticed the tremors. "Sweetheart," she said one night, adjusting Maya's blanket. "You survived something that could have broken anyone. Don't let their actions define your peace." Those words sank deep into Maya's soul. For the first time, she didn't feel like a victim. She felt like a survivor. 2 weeks later, the storm outside finally began to quiet, but inside Maya, something new was stirring strength. The fear that once filled her every breath had begun to fade, replaced by determination. Her body was healing, but now her spirit demanded justice. One morning, she looked at herself in the hospital mirror. Pale, fragile, yet alive. "They tried to break me," she whispered, "but they only built something stronger." When Daniel walked in with fresh flowers, she met his eyes with a steadiness that startled him. "Dad," she said firmly, "I'm not hiding anymore." He studied her, proud but cautious. "You've been through enough, Maya. You don't need to face the cameras." She shook her head. "This isn't about them seeing me cry. It's about other women knowing they can survive, too." That same afternoon, Maya made a call to Clara, Daniel's media chief. Within hours, news outlets received word. Maya Kingston will speak publicly for the first time since the hospital incident. When the day came, the press room overflowed. Reporters buzzed, cameras blinked, and the tension was electric. Then, Maya walked in, calm, elegant, wrapped in a soft blue dress that mirrored her serenity. She took a deep breath before speaking. "I went into labor expecting to meet my child. I didn't expect to fight for my life, but I did. And I'm still here, stronger, not broken." A hush swept over the room. Her voice was steady, each word carrying the weight of truth. "This isn't about money or revenge. It's about courage. No woman should fear giving life." Her message hit hearts across the nation. Hashtags shifted from outrage to empowerment. Hashtag Maya Strong. Hashtag Stand With Survivors. Hashtag Rise From Betrayal filled social feeds. Women shared their own stories, inspired by her calm fire. Daniel watched from the back, his chest swelling with pride. His daughter was no longer the fragile girl in a hospital bed. She was a symbol of resilience. The morning after Maya's speech, the world seemed to wake up differently. Her face was everywhere. News anchors praised her courage, talk shows replayed her words, and women from every corner of the country spoke her name with admiration. But for Ryan, Mrs. Sterling, and Lena, it was the beginning of their downfall. Ryan tried to salvage what was left of his life. He stood before cameras outside his office, attempting an apology. "I made mistakes," he said, voice cracking. "I was under pressure, but the crowd wasn't buying it." Someone yelled, "You tried to destroy your own wife." Another shouted, "Where's your shame, man?" Reporters closed in, flashes blinding him, his fake remorse burning away under the glare of public fury. Lena's life crumbled too. Her modeling contracts were canceled overnight, and brands issued statements cutting ties. On social media, she posted a tearful video, but the comments were merciless. "You helped hurt a pregnant woman," one said. "No forgiveness." Mrs. Sterling, proud and venomous once, now hid inside her darkened home. Even her friends from the social elite refused her calls. She brought disgrace to her own family. One gossip show host sneered. The woman who once commanded rooms now sat in silence, her name ruined beyond repair. Meanwhile, Daniel's team moved swiftly. The hospital released their investigation results. Tampering confirmed, charges pending. Daniel didn't need revenge. The law and public truth did it for him. As for Maya, she watched it all unfold quietly from her father's estate, holding her baby close. "Justice doesn't always come fast," she whispered. "But it comes." That night, Daniel joined her on the balcony, city lights stretching below them. "You changed the narrative, Maya," he said softly. "You didn't just survive. You made the world listen." She smiled faintly, the pain in her eyes finally softening. "They tried to take my breath once," she said, looking at the stars. But I've never breathed. Months passed, and the world slowly moved on. But for Maya Kingston, life was only just beginning again. The pain, the betrayal, the chaos. All of it had shaped her into someone unbreakable. The sun poured through the large windows of her father's estate as Maya cradled her baby girl, Arya, now smiling and full of life. Every coo, every tiny heartbeat reminded her of what she had fought so hard for, a chance to start over. Daniel watched them from the doorway, his heart soft for the first time in years. You know, he said gently, I've built empires my whole life, but nothing compares to seeing you rise from what they tried to do. Maya smiled, eyes shining. You didn't just protect me, Dad. You showed me that power isn't in wealth. It's in standing tall after you've been knocked down. He nodded proudly. You taught me something too, that even billionaires can learn strength from their daughters. In the weeks that followed, Maya launched a foundation called Arya's Breath, dedicated to supporting women who faced neglect or abuse during childbirth. Hospitals partnered with her, celebrities endorsed her cause, and survivors began to share their stories. Reporters who once chased tragedy now covered triumph. From victim to visionary, one headline read, Maya no longer hid from the world. She stood at its center, glowing with quiet confidence. As for Ryan, Lena, and Mrs. Sterling, their names faded into whispers of regret. Each faced the consequences they had earned. Their world of lies crumbled, leaving Maya's truth standing taller than ever. One cool evening, Maya stood on the balcony again, the same place she had once looked out in despair. Arya slept peacefully in her arms, the city lights glimmering below. She whispered softly, You'll never have to live in fear, baby. Not in my world. Daniel joined her, wrapping a gentle arm around her shoulder. The storm's over, Maya,